This is bad, guys. She's alive. We got to get her out somehow. All right.
After all of this, is Mackenzie Shirilla really engaging in X-rated activity in prison? Welcome to Criminal Motives. My name is Matthew Phifer. I'm a therapist who breaks down different events that are happening in true crime. In this episode, I'm going to continue a series that I've been doing on Mackenzie Shirilla. We're going to talk about some alleged X-rated activity that she's been engaging in behind bars, and what does this all mean? If you enjoy talking about true crime and mental health, be sure to like, share, subscribe, turn on notifications so you're notified each and every time I upload a new video. With all that being said, let's watch this next video together and I'll give you my thoughts and reactions after.
The judge who sent Mackenzie Shirilla to prison, likely for the rest of her life, called her hell on wheels. That was, of course, because she drove 100 miles per hour into a wall, killing her boyfriend, Dominic Russo, and his friend, Davion Flanagan. Here's officers from Strongsville PD in Ohio responding to the scene on July 31st, 2022.
Recording. Mounted. Wi-Fi connected.
We gotta bust the window out.
2.
Bring us some more units.
Do you want me to grab my med kit?
Now!
In here. Recording. Mounted. Wi-Fi connected.
Oh my God. I'm free, guys. Radio free
occupants.
No one's breathing.
Okay.
Bust that window out. Oh my God, dude. Who can hear my voice?
Who's in here?
Driver.
Radio. Driver.
Breathing.
Unconscious.
I copy.
Radio, they're
gonna need full extraction at all 3.
Come here. Let him call it in.
You need a knife?
I copy.
You need a knife? Here.
This is bad, guys.
Here's
She's alive. We got to get her out somehow.
All right.
Reach up and
Watch your.
Prosecutors said that the crash was intentional. Mackenzie nearly died but survived, while her lawyers said she suffered a medical episode and she's remorseful for the horrific fatal crash. That's their claim, and that's her claim. She's doing 2 sentences of 15 years to life each for the murders of Dominic and Davion. The judge, as I mentioned, called Mackenzie hell on wheels, and in the Netflix documentary The Crash, Mackenzie tried to portray herself as being remorseful. But guess what? Records from Ohio's Department of Corrections make it look like Mackenzie's been raising quite a bit of hell during her brief time behind prison walls. And I'm going to go through all of it for you. The sexual harassment claims, the flashing of her breasts, and much more. Some of the infractions appear to be minor, while others are more serious. In May 2024, Shirilla got into trouble for being in the wrong place at the wrong time. The officer wrote, on the above date and approximate time at 11:40 p.m., inmate Shirilla was seen in the second floor day room talking on her tablet. This is the second incident that has occurred where inmate Shirilla has been found in the day room after rec has been closed. Inmate Shirilla is being charged with 5.6, being out of place. In response, Mackenzie said, I just didn't know. She admitted guilt and the hearing officer found her guilty. Fast forward to October of 2024, the infractions get a little more serious. The report states, on the above date and approximate time, I, Officer Bryce, was conducting my random bed searches. During my search on inmate Shirilla, I found 2 pair of altered state pants, a fan with the name and number of an inmate's name who is redacted, crossed out, and Shirilla written on the same side, and 4 nude magazine pictures. For this, I will be charging her with a 12.3, possession of another inmate's property, and a 12.7, possession of contraband. Shirilla prison staff, I did have the fan and pants, was turned into quartermaster, and I was charged. The hearing officer wrote, contraband fan destroyed, pictures will be returned, and pants returned to quartermaster. Shirilla was found guilty and lost commissary for 30 days. The following month, in November 2024, Shirilla was written up again. The report states, on 11/11/2024 at approximately 12:40 p.m., Officer Graham and I were stopping incarcerated individuals for random searches. Inmate Shirilla was stopped and voluntarily handed over a block of cheese and a package of noodles from her hoodie. Inmate Shirilla was also not wearing a state shirt to CFS, making her out of dress code. In addition, she was wearing an altered state hoodie with beads on it. I am charging inmate Shirilla with 16.3 for coming to CFS out of dress code and 12.7 for possession of contraband. Officer Schoenlab called me from Hale and advised that inmate Shirilla did have a state shirt on underneath 2 hoodies. Regardless, inmate Shirilla deliberately had her collar tucked in and shirt to make it appear she did not have a state shirt on. Again, Shirilla admitted guilt and she lost access to packages for 30 days. But 2 days later, Shirilla got in trouble again for the clothes that she was wearing. On the above date and time, while conducting searches on offenders leaving CFS, I saw that offender Shirilla had on an altered blue sweatshirt made into a hoodie. Offender Shirilla is aware that personal property cannot be altered. Shirilla admitted to having the sweatshirt, but said she didn't alter it herself. She lost access to commissary for 30 days. But get this, on April 29th, 2025, Mackenzie Shirilla was written up again, this time for violating the rules on video visits. The officer wrote, while reviewing video visits, I witnessed that inmate Shirilla was doing a video visit with an ex-inmate that was released. I noticed that the video ID name for the visitor was not who the person that was doing the video visit with. The visitor's name is redacted, and that is the approved visitor on DOTS. The actual person doing the visit is, and the name is blacked out, is not an approved visitor and should not be visiting Shirilla. They have had over 100 video visits. The visitor has been made applicant and is blocked on GTL. I have attached snapshot of the video showing that the visitor is, and the person's name is again redacted. Mackenzie attended a hearing, didn't make a statement, and admitted guilt. She lost access to electronics for 30 days. Then the next day, she got in trouble again with the guards. This time, Mackenzie was accused of sexual harassment and wearing her clothes improperly. The corrections officer wrote, I approached IP Shirilla while she was in Case Manager Jones's office to take her to the restroom to see if she was properly dressed. IP Shirilla was previously in Mr. Ream's office, and he had asked her for her hoodie, as it was altered and considered contraband. IP stated that he couldn't have it because she wasn't dressed properly under her hoodie. When I told her I was taking her in the restroom to make sure she was dressed properly so I could take her hoodie, she stated, if he got an erection from the way I'm dressed, that's his fault, except she used another word for erection. As she got to the door of Ms. Jones' office, she told Ms. Jones to come with us to the restroom because she didn't feel comfortable. When we got into the IP restroom, IP Shirilla unzipped her hoodie and her state shirt was completely unbuttoned with just a sports bra on. She was instructed to button her shirt and give me her altered hoodie. The whole time we were in the restroom, she was very disrespectful and talked with a loud tone, asking if this was all we were worried about was her altered jacket. This IP has had several conduct reports for contraband clothing. She has been given new state uniforms in exchange for the altered clothes. Her hoodie was clearly taken in on the sides and was very form-fitting on this. Shirilla was quoted as saying, I went to the bathroom with her. I never said that. I did what they told me. I was not being disrespectful. Shirilla ended up pleading guilty to the charges and was punished. Then just a few months later, in August 2025, there was another incident involving claims of sexual activity. A conduct report states, IP had her hands in IP Shirilla's pants in her buttocks region. The records show Mackenzie denied this incident happened. Offender pleads not guilty, states I did not allow her to touch me and I have never had a sex ticket and this is not me. I don't do that kind of stuff. And there's much, much more to talk about. So I'd like to bring in Justin Pernie. He is a crisis manager with a company called White Collar Advice, and he advises people on spending time in prison. So Justin, thanks so much for being with me. I appreciate it.
My pleasure.
I want to dive right into these prison records. This latest conduct report, or one of these conduct reports, this one is from September 2025. So Mackenzie had been there over a year at this point, and we're going to put this up on the screen. It says, Officer Miller was reviewing ViaPath visits. This is the video visit system. It was a person on there with Mackenzie who was not approved. And it says, during this visit, multiple inappropriate things took place. The visit that took place at 6:06 p.m. shows Mackenzie Shirilla showing her breast to the visitor. Then at 21:08, the visitor shows a sex toy, and then the visitor shows her breast. And then at 7:42, the visitor shows her breast with a sex toy. So it's very descriptive here, Justin. Mackenzie Shirilla could not deny this. She couldn't deny this at all. So what are your thoughts on this conduct report in particular? Is this an unusual thing to happen, people doing sexual things on video visits?
It's not unusual, unfortunately. Look, disciplinary infractions are very common in prison, but I use the analogy of the speed limit 65 and you're going 75, you might be okay. So there are things staff in the prison will overlook because there are so many things to be worried about. But when you engage in destructive behavior like this that threatens the security of the institution, it's like going 125. So it could lead to loss of good time in segregation. I've heard her complaining in videos with her mom that she doesn't want to be in protective custody. But of course, in a situation like this, you end up in protective custody because you need to separate her from other prisoners that are behaving. Since she's been in prison, it's like it is a total case study of what not to do. No identification with victims whose families are destroyed. It's all about her image, her ego. And as a result of that, well, it doesn't help she has enabling parents as well. As a result of this conduct, forget about getting out of prison in 15 or 20 years. She's truly setting herself up on a path to be there for the rest of her life based on conduct like sex toys and a video visit. She's getting poor advice.
Well, is she getting advice at all? That's the other thing. We don't know if she's getting any advice because I don't think that this Netflix documentary worked for her. I think it works against her.
Of course it does, because Netflix has an agenda to get viewers and to bring in money and get subscribers. So they're not going to create a narrative that's going to help her. And she doesn't recognize that, unfortunately. So she's making decisions that are going to keep her in prison for the rest of her life, I think. And until she understands how these actions are going to influence her, it's simply going to continue. We talk about truth tellers. She has enablers in her life. They tell her what she wants to hear. If someone is even willing to give her advice, would she be able to take it? And based on what I've heard and what I've learned, the answer is no. I mean, listening to these tapes, it's so sickening. I want to hear identifying what the victims want. I am ashamed. I am sorry. The only thing you hear from the family is some platitudes or cliches. She does accept remorse. She does not. It's a throwaway. And the focus is, I want out of protective custody. I'm around some really weird and sick people, without recognizing she may actually be the problem. At some point, she's going to need someone to tell her the truth and then actually take that truth, unless she wants to be in prison for the rest of her life. That's
She had another infraction where she was accused of stealing a lot of stuff. And I want to put that one up on the screen as well. They said that they found her wearing dangle earrings with charms stolen from the kindware room. She had bottles of paint, a bottle of wax, 11 paint tubes, a plastic bin, 20 plus rocks, homemade pillows, altered painted Van shoes, a pillow with no receipt, 2 green t-shirts, fake eyelashes, 1 neck scarf, 2 long sleeve t-shirts, pom-pom earrings made from items stolen from the kindware room, all kinds of stuff. She had bags of beads, all of this stuff that she wasn't supposed to have. And she accepted the conduct report. She says, I didn't steal anything. I got it from so-and-so. I like to paint cups. She gave me the stuff. I paid 10 each for the kindware. And then it was referred to the infraction board. So she got in trouble for that. I mean, is that a serious thing? I mean, it sounded like she had this huge collection of stuff in there. She's saying she didn't steal any of it, but they make it sound like she did possibly do that. She later pleaded guilty to it.
The best response she gave on these incident reports is when there was no response, because anytime she actually chose to respond, there was, sure, she said guilty, but there was no acceptance of responsibility. It was just blaming or excusing. It was never her fault. So some of these on its own, one disciplinary infraction, for example, taking food out of the chow hall or going into another dorm without permission, prison staff may overlook this, but this isn't like an out of character for her. The problem is her character in prison is continued to cheat and take shortcuts, engage in disciplinary infractions. I'm frankly a little surprised the prison's given her so much room to continue to engage in it. This isn't like 1, 2, or 3. It is dozens, and it's going to get to a point where she's going to get exactly what she doesn't want. Total isolation. Total 23 hours a day in a bunker where she's going to be able to get out 3 days a week to shower and exercise. And you can only imagine the lamenting or complaining that's going to come then. So if I were advising her, I'd say you need to understand that there could be a path at some point 20 or 30 years from now where you could be released from prison. It feels like a very long time, but it's coming. And if you began to make good decisions, I accept full responsibility for my conduct. I identify with victims. If I were them, I too would want punishment and retribution. I hope they take some pleasure knowing that I'm going to be in prison for the next 2 or 3 decades. Instead, she's building this record through disciplinary infractions and just not caring, making herself the star. Netflix doesn't, it only adds on to the feeling that she's some celebrity or superhero. She's putting herself in a position where she's eventually going to go in front of a parole board and she's going to say, I'm sorry, I've changed. I won't do it again. I've learned my lessons. And a very cynical parole board is going to say, cool, where is the record? What have you done to demonstrate why you should be released? Because I can assure you the victims' families are going to be sitting there in that hearing 15 years from now. When she begins to embrace that reality, she may make better decisions. Or some people with long sentences say, you know what, who cares? The sentence is too long. I ain't never leaving. I'm going to live my life. If I want to have sex toys and video visits and have fans around the world lionize me, cool, I'm going to be here for the rest of my life anyway. She's on a path to be in prison for the rest of her life.
It certainly seems so. At one time, she actually got a ticket, as they call them. They call them tickets. They're called conduct reports, but the inmates call them tickets. And it seemed like they were coming fast and furious for her, like all these things. And I'm sure she was under a microscope. And maybe she was being rebellious too. We don't get the full picture, but it seemed like she had several in a row. And when she accepted one of them, she signed it under duress.
Yes.
I mean, when they see something like that, I mean, when you're in an institution like this, Justin, you're supposed to be institutionalized. You know, you're supposed to fall into line. But it sounds like she is really having a huge time or trouble. She's having trouble adjusting to this.
Here's why. I'll tell you why. So in the federal system, they're called shots. She doesn't believe she's guilty. So if any injustice is being done, it's against her. So why would she follow rules that are meant for inmates who are actually criminals who have broken the law, describing herself being in with crazy people? She does not identify with them. She is not one of them. She is innocent. So this injustice is coming her way. Therefore, why should she be held accountable to rules that shouldn't apply to her because she didn't do anything wrong? She maintains hope. I assure you, she lays on her rack, the long day behind her, expecting at some point to get a phone call from her lawyer that says, you prevailed on appeal. You're coming home tomorrow. She is expecting that. And when that news doesn't come, and it's unlikely that it will, the reality is going to set in. I'm going to be here for a very long time. And as she gets older through introspection, she's going to realize how foolish and embarrassing and disgustingly she has acted since going to prison. She can turn it around. We can all become better than decisions of our past, but it's time she begins to make better decisions. She just doesn't think she's guilty.
When you read through these conduct reports and you see the Netflix documentary, The Crash, you look at all of this big picture, the 58 pages of conduct reports, and you're seeing she doesn't think she did anything wrong. So she's in prison and she's like, these rules don't apply to me. I don't have to follow them.
Well, you have several things going on. In the federal system, if you get 1 or 2 disciplinary infractions, that's a wrap. You're going to the hole. You're getting transferred to a higher security prison. You're losing good time, commissary, your desired bunker job. The consequences are so severe federally, like with iPhones and drugs. They don't want any of it. There appears to be a longer leash, as the cliche holds, inside of this institution. So it's sort of like raising children. You do 1 or 2 bad things, you tell them there's going to be a consequence, they do it again, there's no consequence. It emboldens them, they keep going. There is like 40, 50, 60 pages of conduct, and they can guilty, write it up, guilty, write it up. At this point, whether she's driving 75 or 150, the consequences isn't that severe. So you're just going to continue to do it. I don't see any path to her stopping unless there's such a severe consequence, like segregation, 23 hours a day where you're locked in a bunker. You don't know if it's morning or night. You're showering 3 or 4 times a week, exercising for 15 minutes a day, and there ain't no time for sex toys via a video chat.
That one really got me. And it seems like, there's a lot of stuff going on with female inmates. I mean, that's her only choice at this point. I mean, that's all that's available, I guess. But where it's like former inmates that are females. And so that part's really got me too. But you think she can turn it around? Like if she starts acting appropriately, behaving, going to work as she's required to, not having contraband, you think possibly she can turn it around maybe in time for her 2037 parole board hearing?
There's no doubt. If you look at people who have gone to prison throughout history, Adam Clausen, Malcolm X, my partner Michael Santos, who served a quarter century. I served a measly 18 months, kind of as an arrogant, entitled white-collar offender who thought I was better than others until I got to prison. We can all become better, but not through happy talk or cliches, by building a record. She should be journaling. Who am I? What am I learning? What would I do differently? If I read a book, why did I read it? How will the book help me moving forward? How can I develop and grow a network? The most important thing moving forward is there's got to be some acceptance of, I kill 2 people. Generations of their families will never be the same. It's not about her suffering. When she begins to think of other people and the impact she's had on others, she can begin to get on track, but it's not going to come through words. She's got to build a documented record over time that she could defend. And what does that look like? Over the next 30 days, no disciplinary infraction. Perhaps write an open letter to people that I'm young, I'm immature. My parents enable me. I am too focused on celebrity. All I do is think about myself, and I see the consequences of those bad decisions. I'm looking at life in prison. Here's how I will do better, and then do it. But I will say it's hard in prison. It's hard to say you're going to do something, then you're down, you're depressed, you can't even imagine a release date 15 years into the future. But guess what? If she were to get parole in 15 or 20 years, she would still be a very young woman with the rest of her life in front of her. I believe with good men. I've said that about everyone you guys have ever interviewed me with. Sonny Balwani, Elizabeth Holmes, Sean Combs. We can all become better, but it doesn't require talk. We've got to build a record. It's the only way that I got my life back on track, by building assets, evidence I could share with really cynical people, knowing there's always going to be people who call her and someone like me a criminal, scum, trash. You don't need everyone back in your corner. You don't, but you need to grow a network, and it starts with, I devastated and destroyed families. I'm ashamed. Here's how I will do better.
All right, welcome back. So Mackenzie's behavior is not that surprising, not that shocking. You might remember a video that I did, actually the very first video I did on this series, where people who were in prison with her talked about her behavior and described a lot of this behavior of her not listening to the rules, of her thinking that she was the center of the world, the center of the universe, her not abiding by the dress code, her doing her own thing, her having extreme amounts of money on the commissary and taking advantage of it. If you want to see that video, be sure to go to my Mackenzie playlist and check that out, or I'll have a card right up top. So on one hand, I agree with everything that everyone said in this video, that it doesn't look like that she's going to get out anytime soon, that if this behavior continues, that she will not make parole. And I think that some of that is pretty obvious. But when I heard some of the behavior, some of the things that stood out to me is that I think that she is eventually going down the path of some sort of, or some form of OnlyFans. Now, I say that, and to some people, it might seem very obvious, might seem blatantly obvious, and to some people, it might not seem obvious at all. Now, I don't know how she can pull it off while she's in prison. I don't know the rules. I don't know what she has access to. But what I do know is that she doesn't listen to the rules in prison anyway. And it would not take much effort for her to, when these video calls or some of the things that she's doing, take a handful of photos or videos or whatever and pass them on to one of her former inmates that are already out and have them post and split the revenue, or however they want to work out some sort of business deal. But here's the real deal. The reason why I say that she is likely going to head down that path is not actually not just because of her, and not just because of her inmate friends and the influences that she has. I also think this because of her parents. Her parents seem like, and they come across like parents who, and this is not a knock against anyone, but like they don't really have or come from any sort of money, but at the same time have a very strong desire for it. When I heard and when I see interviews of them talking not only about Mackenzie, but also about their background, it seems that there was an interview that Steve, the father, recently did, talking about the Russos, talking about how the Russos were basically like a political family. And I wouldn't doubt that had a lot to do with the reason why Mackenzie held on so tightly to staying with Dom, was because of the pressure that her parents put on her to, quote, become something. And this would not be the first time that I heard or have seen parents that tried to encourage or pushed or pressured their daughter or son into dating rich, so to speak. And when you look at some of the things that they allowed, it really speaks to two parents that were really trying to push this relationship, allowing for her to move in with Dom at a very young age, being very loosey-goosey with the rules, in particular when it came to Dom. Now, some of this is because they are permissive parents, but I also believe that some of this was because of who Dom is and who Dom's family is. The other piece to this puzzle, the reason why I say that she kind of fits the profile of someone who would go down this road, is the fact that her dad just recently lost his job. So I don't think that, and again, this is not a knock against anyone. I don't like talking about people's finances, but they don't come across as a family who has lots of assets and lots of wealth going on for them. So I believe that there is likely a lot of pressure that is building up and mounting up within the family to create some sort of revenue stream. Now, keep in mind, even since she's been in prison, her mom was trying to push Mackenzie into modeling, into agencies. Mackenzie, the mom, and the dad, as a matter of fact, have this fantasy of celebrity life. Mackenzie and her mom really pedestal the influencer life. At times with their phone calls, you could hear them actually kind of excited at the fact that Kim Kardashian could potentially take over this case, which she obviously said that she wouldn't. But there were times when we talk about the lack of remorse that they were almost teetering, looking at this as a positive thing because they were getting their name out there and they were becoming known, and they have now this Netflix documentary. And keep in mind that Dom's sister is now also trying to create what's called Dom's Law, which prevents people from being able to make money off of other people's tragedy. In a case like this, where the perpetrator is trying to make money off of the tragedy of their victims. So to an extent, I believe that Dom's sister kind of knows this about the Shirillas, in particular, Mackenzie. So when you take a full look at the entire picture of her already being okay with being touched, so to speak, and putting herself out there, flashing people, showing skin, her obsession with the influencer life, her obsession with celebrities, in particular, Kim Kardashian, who is well known for having a sex tape. You have people who have recently been in trouble and have done very well for themselves, like people like Gypsy Rose. And then you have the added pressure of the family could be, again, I don't know their finances or anything like that, but could be struggling financially. I would not be surprised if that is a road that she not only went down, but also could potentially be encouraged by her parents. And yes, her father too. And when you think about some of the text messages that have gone through with the father, with the warm milk, and some of the text messages that were late at night that were kind of weird and vague and potentially sexually explicit and that sort of thing. The fact that he was interviewed and said that he didn't mind her using drugs and smoking pot and things like that, I have no doubt in my mind that not only would he not have a problem with this, not only would he not stop it, he likely would encourage it, would also support it, potentially as a business manager. And also, when I think about this, when I look at this entire situation, I look at her, it really aligns with other women, other young ladies who have done this. I mentioned Gypsy Rose. For the older generation, you might remember Amy Fisher. There's also Tanya Harding. When people end up in situations like this, sometimes they turn to, and I don't want to belittle people who might be in that type of industry, but people who aren't intentional about the industry might find themselves in this narrative because they are desperate for money, they're desperate for resources. And they're definitely desperate for something that they wanted from the beginning, fame. But what do you think? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Thank you very much for watching. If you enjoy this type of content, be sure to like, share, subscribe, turn on notifications so you're notified every time I upload a new video. Also, be sure to check out my Substack, linked in the description box down below. Also, if you are struggling with a toxic relationship, or if you are just kind of struggling with mental health and you need some direction, I have some resources for you available in the description box down below as well. With all that being said, thank you very much, and I will see you in the next episode. You guys have a good one.